Anyway.
I am Dave Rubin, and this is the Rubin Report. It's January 25th, 2024. We're live streaming on Rumble, Locals, and YouTube. Share, subscribe, tap that notification bell if you have not. Post-game show, as always, rubinreport.locals.com. We're going to cover a bunch of stuff up top because there is a massive fight a-brewing between the federal government and the state of Texas, and I suspect some other states about to get involved in this thing. And then after that, we're going to be doing a Rubin Report community Q&A. So if you want to get a question in on the fly while we are live on the computer machine, you can join us, rubinreport.locals.com. We mentioned yesterday that the Supreme Court in a 5-4 ruling with John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett siding with the more liberal justices have decided that Texas cannot protect its own border. I don't have to explain to you what's been going on for the months and months now under the Biden administration, where we are seeing literally at this point hundreds of thousands of people pour into this country. We have no idea where these people are coming from. We have no idea what their intentions are. We don't know where they're going, et cetera, et cetera. And Texas, Greg Abbott over in Texas, had finally decided that he's had enough, right? The governor was just like, all right, you know what, federal government, you're not going to do your thing. We're going to go ahead and do it. That's what the Constitution was created for, basically, right? That's also what federalism is all about, the idea that we are the United States of America, but the states are supposed to basically control what's in their borders. The federal government is supposed to control the external border of the whole country, but when the federal government is either negligent or downright in dereliction of its duty, the states better step up. And now the Supreme Court has warned or ruled against Texas, and I don't want to overstate it, but it sort of feels like all hell is breaking loose. So we're going to cover all of that and more. But first, let me tell you guys about TWC Health. Guys, I've been talking to you guys about the wellness company and their medical emergency kit for quite some time. And their next product is one that I believe every American should be taking regularly, or at the very least have on hand for when necessary. It's called Spike Support. And you're going to want to listen up. If you're not thinking that something is going on at this point, with so many previously healthy people experiencing myocarditis, blood clots, turbo cancers, menstrual irregularities, miscarriages, and the new died suddenly phenomenon, you're not paying attention. The culprit is spike protein. Spike protein is a lingering threat from both the vaccine and the man-made virus, linked to all kinds of long-term health issues. Even Pfizer is now admitting there are problems. So many people, myself included, are looking for answers and ways to stay healthy despite the spike proteins, try to say that 3 times fast, that are part of our population now. And while we know those answers won't ever come from mainstream sources, truth-seeking doctors like Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Drew Pinsky, who's going to be in studio on Monday, and their team at the Wellness Company are here to provide answers and hope. There's one question that these doctors get asked every single day. How do I detox from the spike protein left behind from the vaccine and COVID? And thanks to the Wellness Company, there's actually something we can do. Spike Support Formula is a unique blend of natural ingredients which aim to block and dissolve spike protein in your body so you can get back to that pre-COVID feeling and stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. Their website has tons of testimonials of customers reporting increased mental clarity and energy levels, amongst other things, whether they got poked or not. Reclaim your health at twc.health/Rubin. Use code Rubin for 15% at checkout. That's twc.health/Rubin, code Rubin, in this fight for truth and medical freedom. You owe it to yourself and your family to take control of your health. And now back to me. Okay, so before we fully dive into the border situation, which is, it's hot right now, to say the least. And it's so unfortunate because we did not have to be in this place. We did not have to be in a place where the Supreme Court would now be issuing rulings against the states. We did not have to be in a place where Texas would now be fighting with this administration. There have been plenty of warning signs for months and months. Plenty of people, not just me, have been showing you these videos. We now know that even on the Democrat side of the aisle, that their base is going, okay, maybe something's a little wrong with having all of these people come in, right? Like having our homeless shelters overrun with migrants. Maybe that's a bit of a problem. The crime, the violence, all of that stuff. So before we get to that, I want to give you a backdrop on it, because one of the only ways that this issue has bubbled up is because of online media, because the mainstream media is slow motion. What do I always say? Truth is a time release pill. They get to everything 6 months later, usually when it's too late, and then they only give you the wrong solutions to the problem, even when they get what the problem actually is. One of the solutions to all of that was about 1.5 years ago when Elon Musk bought Twitter. He bought it for about, what was it, 42 bill? Something 44. Like that? 44 bill. An extra 2 bill, who knew? 44 bill. It's losing money, but he bought it, and it is offered the greatest defense of free speech and our ability to share videos, get a counter narrative out there, and everything else. Elon Musk sat down, as you know, he went to Auschwitz with Ben Shapiro. They then did an interview after, and here he is talking a bit about how he's using Twitter, X, as it's now known, to expose the legacy media.
Technically, there's people on Instagram with more followers, but in terms of interactions, I'm the most interacted with social media account on earth. I think I recently passed 169 million followers. So can 169 million people be wrong?
I know we'll find out in the next election cycle. But you know, when you feel that, do you think that that was a reaction to the fact that you were basically saying the thing you're not supposed to say, which is that the sources of information that people are receiving are in fact siphoned off and censored?
Yeah, exactly. It was actually amazing to me how much the legacy media walks in lockstep. There's like nobody breaks ranks. And now we have X that breaks ranks and doesn't just go with whatever the approved narrative is. I think for many in the public, they don't quite realize just how much deception is really going on with the media. The biggest deception is the choice of narrative, because the media can say they can write a story about this or write a story about that, and only a few stories can go on the front page. So you're deciding essentially what people should pay attention to. So instead of it being something that what people pay attention to being what people actually care about, it's actually what a handful of editors care about. They're telling the people what to pay attention to. So that the deception by choice of narrative is a big thing. So that's why I really want the narratives to bubble up organically from the people in the case of the X system, which they do.
Love that line there, deception by choice of narrative, right? One of the things that I wrote about in Don't Burn This Book is that, when you talk about fake news is usually when people think, oh, they're just making up a story or the headline doesn't match what's actually in the article itself. But the most nefarious type of fake news is when they do not cover something, they ignore a story. So for months and months and months, when mainstream media is not covering the border, that's a type of fake news because they are controlling what the narrative is. Deception by choice, right? That's a really, really interesting concept. They're deciding what people can pay attention to. And, if for those of you that are, let's say, Gen X or above, you remember when at 6:30 on ABC, NBC, and CBS, they had their news programs, and really they covered about the exact same stuff, almost in the exact same order. It might have been a little bit different, but if you were watching NBC News at 6:30 with Tom Brokaw, and then you flipped over to CBS News or to ABC News with Peter Jennings, it was basically the same stuff. Maybe they changed which way they were showing it. Like, okay, that's story number 1, this is story number 4, but it was basically the same. So the Overton window stayed the same. It was sort of like this, and then everybody in the country kind of believed the same stuff. Cable news comes in, eventually, of course, the internet comes in, and now news is bubbling up from the bottom. There are Twitter reporters. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. going to the border, going, there's a problem here. Elon Musk going to the border, there's a problem here. And the mainstream media is pissed about that. So this idea of the Overton window, what we are allowed to talk about, that really is the issue here. Elon had a bit more to say about that.
What do you think is the biggest untold narrative, the thing that the media have been missing for years and years, or suppressing for years and years?
Well, there's a few things, but I've generally tried to say, to increase the so-called Overton window of what can be discussed and what is it okay to discuss without being ostracized. certainly attacking DEI was, would have been ostracized before, and not anymore. Anything that's sort of sensitive or that the media ignores, the public can then, raise it on the X platform and make that an actual topic of discussion.
So what's interesting about sort of citizen journalism, or it's not even journalism. What's interesting about a guy who wanders down to a border town and just like sees what's going on and then shares his thoughts is that it bubbles up from the bottom, and then the people decide, oh, that is it. Boy, that's interesting. Why wasn't that on CNN? So this leads us to the question, so what is being discussed on X, Twitter, and say on Rumble and Locals and places like that is basically being completely ignored by mainstream media, or mainstream media is just getting to it really late, right? Mainstream media is kind of covering the border stuff now because they cannot ignore it anymore. It makes them look completely complicit and or ridiculous. So of course, the migrant crisis, the illegal immigration crisis is the main thing. Check out this video. This is wild. This is from Boston Logan Airport, and they are housing illegals. Take a look. That's Boston Logan Airport. Boston Logan Airport, by the way, what was it? 2 of the planes from 9/11, I believe, originated at Boston Logan Airport. Who are these people? What are the security measures over there? Is that a hotel? Is that a migrant center? Remember when we showed you months and months ago, we probably on this show showed it to you, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, what was going on at the Texas El Paso airport, right? And that's thought of as a border town. So who cares what's going on down there? You ship a couple of those people up to Martha's Vineyard and then all hell breaks loose. Those liberals don't have to live on their little island with people of another color. That's very scary for them. Barack Obama's got his 30 acres on the water. He's freaking out over climate change. Don't put any extra pressure on him. So you understand this. These people come in through the southern border, and then, in a wise move, the governors of some of these states, Arizona, Texas, even Florida, have just decided to ship these people out. Sorry, we're not sanctuary states, we're not sanctuary cities, you are. We know this is happening in Chicago O'Hare up north. It's happening, as we just showed you, in Boston. And who are these people? Well, here's a little video of just some of the recent people wandering into the United States.
Massive. They let them through. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this.
America! James Carville wants to give all these women and children.
What is going on here? Where are the women? Where are the children? Can we throw back to that? Find me a woman or a child here. Find me a woman or a child. All these guys, 18, 19, 20, 25, they look like they're maybe not even in their 30s. Where are the women? Do you see one woman there? You see one, I mean, it's absolutely insane. Now, you may remember last week we showed you this video. This is just incredible. A guy goes up to a couple illegals and he's trying to find out some information from them. And this guy, who has a Middle Eastern accent, for whatever that is worth, basically threatens him. And there's subsequently a little more information that it seems like we may have found out about this person. But take a look at this.
By the way, if you are smart enough, you will know who I am. But you are really not smart enough to know who I am. But soon you're gonna know who I am. Very easy.
Wow, very easy. The entitlement.
No, believe me, I'm much better than that.
The entitlement, guys. Wow.
You will see soon.
That should send chills down your spine. If we were a serious country, if Joe Biden didn't have dementia, if every one of the people involved in this administration were not incompetent buffoons or intentionally negligent morons, we would be on a nationwide manhunt for that guy. Who is that guy? How could you have the temerity to walk into a country and then know you're on camera and then threaten everybody? The N Wokeness account, who we quote a couple times a week on this show, this is not confirmed. This is just a question. I want to make that clear. Is this him? Mobsum Samadov leads the Azerbaijan Islamic Party. They have close ties to Hezbollah. He was jailed for 12 plus years on charges of attempts to organize terror attacks and overthrow the government. He was released on January 19th, 2023. So it does look like it potentially could be him. I don't know if it is, but does our government know if it is? And if it is him, is that a problem? And why is that not on CNN? That's the point. So when you listen to Elon Musk and he talks about the Overton window, what can we talk about? We have some guy who just wandered into the country on top of the thousands and thousands of other people who are wandering in. You don't know me, you will know me. Like, have we not learned anything? Have we not learned anything? As I just mentioned, two of the flights on 9/11 originated, I think it's two of the flights originated from Boston Logan Airport. I was in New York City during 9/11. What the fuck is going on here? And we better get serious, and we better get serious real quick. So, of course, what leads us to this now bubbling into the mainstream is this Supreme Court ruling that you know about already. Greg Price tweeted about it. Breaking, the Supreme Court just ruled 5-4 that the Biden administration can remove physical barriers Texas put up at their border to stop the invasion. Barrett and Roberts voted with the libs. Now I want to show you video from yesterday. So this is Joe Biden's national security advisor, John Kirby, who mostly spends his time wearing suits that fit in a very, very strange way. Seems like he has a small body, big suit syndrome. Here he is explaining that barbed wire doesn't work. They put barbed wire everywhere, like chicken coops and jails and borders and pretty much anywhere you wouldn't want somebody, but he knows that it doesn't actually work.
Does razor wire work?
Does razor wire work for what? Does it work for the Border Patrol to allow them to have the access they need to be able to better process people that are trying to get across the border? I don't think so, and that's why we asked for it to be removed.
What are you talking about? The barbed wire, the razor wire, it was put there so that these people can't come in. But what he's saying is, it doesn't work if you want to let everybody in. If you want to process these people, well, then the barbed wire is a problem. Now, if you want evidence that barbed wire works, if you're a serious nation and you want to keep people out of your country, here's a little barbed wire over at the Egypt-Gaza border, because Egypt, for some strange reason, they don't want all their Palestinian brothers wandering into Sinai. Well, shit, somebody better tell the Egyptians that doesn't work. That wall with all that wire, think about all of the money they've wasted on that wire to keep Palestinians out of Egypt. Very, very bizarre. But if you think we'll get to John Kerry in a minute, but if you think that John Kirby, small man in big suit, doesn't know what he's doing, here's diversity hire Corinne Jean-Pierre explaining also that razor wire is ineffective, Texas is mean, et cetera, et cetera.
I don't have the specifics on what the border security is going to do and how they're going to do it. Look, we are certainly glad that the Supreme Court made the decision to vacate the injunction that prevented border security to actually do their jobs, to do humanitarian work, to actually enforce laws, and it got in the way. And what was put forward, that what Texas was doing, the governor was doing, was actually ineffective. And that's something that we have to remember. It was ineffective.
They lie and lie and lie. They just lie about everything. Did you catch what she said there? Because again, every now and again, they accidentally tell you what they really think. She thinks it's the job of border security to do humanitarian work. I'm fairly certain that it's the job of border security to secure the border, not to do humanitarian work. So then Texas comes in and says, this is our border. You people seem to think that your job is to do humanitarian work, even though you're called border agents. So we're going to protect the border. So now what has happened here? Well, yesterday, Greg Abbott, he's just about had it. He, of course, is the Texas governor, and he has a statement on their constitutional right to self-defense. Why don't I read some of it to you? How about that? The federal government has broken the compact between the United States and the states. The executive branch of the United States has a constitutional duty to enforce federal laws protecting states, including immigration laws on the books right now. President Biden has refused to enforce those laws and has even violated them. The result is that he has smashed records for illegal immigration. Despite having been put on notice in a series of letters, one of which I delivered to him by hand, President Biden has ignored Texas's demand that he perform his constitutional duties. President Biden has violated his oath to faithfully execute immigration laws enacted by Congress. Instead of prosecuting immigrants for the federal crime of illegal entry, President Biden has sent his lawyers into federal courts to sue Texas for taking action to secure the border. President Biden has instructed his agencies to ignore federal statutes that mandate the detention of illegal immigrants. The effect is to illegally allow their en masse parole into the United States. By wasting taxpayer dollars to tear open Texas's border security infrastructure, President Biden has enticed illegal immigrants away from the 28 legal entry points along this state's southern border, bridges where nobody drowns, and into the dangerous waters of the Rio Grande. Under President Biden's lawless border policies, more than 6 million illegal immigrants have crossed into our southern border in just 3 years. That is more than the population of 33 different states in this country. This illegal refusal to protect the states has inflicted unprecedented harm on the people across the United States. James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and the other visionaries who wrote the U.S. Constitution foresaw that the states should not be left to the mercy of a lawless president who does nothing to stop external threats like cartels smuggling millions of illegal immigrants across the border. That is why the framers included both Article 14. Wait, is that Article? No, that's Article 4, sorry, which promises that the federal government shall protect each state against invasion. Article 10, Clause 3, which acknowledges the state's sovereign interest in protecting their borders. In Arizona versus the United States, with Scalia dissenting, the failure of the Biden administration to fulfill the duties imposed by Article 4 has triggered Article 10, Clause 3, which reserves this state the right of self-defense. For these reasons, I have already declared an invasion under Article 110, Clause 3, to invoke Texas's constitutional authority to defend and protect itself. That authority is the supreme law of the land and supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary. The Texas National Guard, the Texas Department of Public Safety, and other Texas personnel are acting on that authority, as well as state law to secure the Texas border. Greg Abbott, governor of Texas. Okay, so we're going to dive a little more into the legality of some of this, and I'm going to show you a video that Ron DeSantis just put up just this morning explaining a little bit of the legality. Look, I am not going to sit here and tell you that I am a constitutional lawyer. Does Amy Coney Barrett have an argument? Does John Roberts have an argument when they sided with the liberals on this? I have no doubt they have an argument. But I want to put aside legal arguments for just a moment, and I just want to deal with the reality on the ground. And the reality on the ground is that everyone knows this country is being invaded and everyone knows it is intentional, right? Let's just remember, the reason that this is happening is because Texas decided to stop it from happening, right? That's what happened. Texas said, we're going to put up some of that barbed wire. And then the federal government was like, no, we don't like barbed wire. Here's a little bit of video of the Texas National Guard actually being deployed at the border. Those are good, decent Americans, the members of the Texas National Guard, doing what is right for their state, and they are only doing it because for months now, the federal government has not done anything about it. Actually, the federal government has gone out of its way to make sure that, as Greg Abbott pointed out, 6 million people in 3 months? 6 million people in 3 years? Do you realize how crazy that is? As he points out, that's over the population of 33 states. That is completely untenable. That is how you destroy a nation from the inside. Here's a bit more of what the Texas National Guard is doing right as we speak, right this very moment in Texas to hold its line in its standoff with the federal government. You might note barbed wire because apparently it actually does work. You know, I got nicked on barbed wire once. You guys ever get into a little barbed wire? Ever happen to you? I used to go play basketball at this court that was owned by like some company, and a bunch of us in high school used to play at this court, and we had to hop a fence to get onto this court. It was a super nice court. And then eventually they put barbed wire there, and I got my leg cut on barbed wire. I probably have a scar, actually. Maybe we'll show it to you tomorrow. Different type of show, but maybe we'll do that because barbed wire works. For example, these guys all work at my house every day. That's where we shoot the show. There's a code at the door that opens the gate for them. If I was to disable that code and just put barbed wire there instead, would you find that more difficult or easier to get in? More difficult. That's why he gets paid. You get it? You guys get it. Here is Governor Ron DeSantis, who this morning, he's offering all of Florida's support to Texas. Oh, and by the way, today is National Florida Day. Very exciting. I think we have an image for National Florida Day. It involves an alligator. Look at that. That's basically how Floridians feel at the moment. So happy Florida Day to everybody. But Governor DeSantis did a great job. Now remember, he's a former lawyer, clearly the best governor in the country. This is about a 2-minute video, him just clearly explaining the history, what's happening right now, the legal issues, the Constitution, the founders, federalism, et cetera, et cetera.
Biden is going after Texas, saying that they must remove fortifications from their border. They put wire, they put things to keep people out. Biden's saying you got to take that down to let people come in illegally, which is just crazy. And I remarked that if the Constitution was originally understood to mean that a state could not protect itself against an invasion, that the federal government could force a state to allow an invasion, the Constitution would have never been ratified in the first place. Texas would have never joined the Union when it did. And if you look at Federalist 46, which Daniel Horowitz pointed out, James Madison talks about situations where federal encroachment can be mitigated by state action. So you have Texas here that's holding its ground. They have every right to fortify the border vis-a-vis an invasion, and that's Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution. So they're in the right. You also have a situation where liberal jurisdictions over many, many years have been sanctuary jurisdictions against enforcing federal immigration law. So you'll have somebody who's a criminal alien, they will not be given over to ICE, and they will deliberately act to frustrate the laws on the books, and somehow that's viewed as okay. You have Texas, who's acting to enforce the laws on the books, to ensure that they have a secure state and that we have a secure country. So all of this is just nonsense what Biden's doing. Texas has every right to stand its ground. In Florida, we've been sending people to help for many years now, because we understand it's not just a Texas issue, it's ultimately an American issue. And if we don't have sovereignty in this country, then we're not going to be a country anymore. So they have every right to hold their ground, to stay the course, and Florida will continue to be there helping out every step of the way.
All right, so that's just a calm, clear explanation of what's going on here. And again, the key point here is that the federal government is not doing its job. It is not enforcing the laws on the books. So the states, in this case Texas, but I think more of the red states are going to start doing this, are going to start and stepping in where the federal government has decided to just leave. Not only just leave, help people get in. It's not just like dereliction of duty. It's intentional destruction of the country. So I'm very glad to hear that Ron DeSantis, and unsurprised that he's on the right side of this. I'm glad to hear that Florida is going to help Texas as it can. I have no doubt that some of the other states are. I saw that Kevin Stitt up in Oklahoma, he's standing by Greg Abbott, and many other red state governors will, right? Like the signal now has been sent by DeSantis, like red state governors, get in on this. It's a winning issue, and everyone knows that it's a winning issue. And really think about it. What does the Constitution promise us? What is living in America? What is the promise? It's the promise of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if the federal government will not ensure that you will be safe, that we will know who the citizens are, that your tax dollars will go to things that will benefit you, not benefit non-citizens, et cetera, et cetera. If they will not do that, then they are not abiding by the civil guarantee that we all have. And once they don't do that, then we're all left. So, this is just the beginning. To me, this seems like the fight of the year now, and it has been ramped up, and it's going to get put on steroids as we roll into this election year. But the states are all going to have to decide what they're going to do. A place like Florida, it's like we're a peninsula. We got 3 borders of water. So we have a Coast Guard, and we can do a pretty good job of making sure that, random boats don't just show up, which has happened all over Europe, right? It's happened in Spain. It's happened in Italy. It's happened in Greece, where the migrants just show up. We can do a pretty good job there. But we also have to decide what are we going to do on the ground, right? I always joke about like we should just dig a moat between us and Georgia and we'll throw gators in there. But all the states are going to have to decide what they're going to do. 6 million people in 3 years. You think they're all good guys? Anyway, one more. Let's go back to this completely negligent, DEI-filled, ridiculous administration. Here's Karine Jean-Pierre one more time when asking if old Joe, could we just get that nice old man to show up to the border?
Biden admitted Friday that the border isn't secure. Does he have any plans to visit the southern border before the election?
The president visited the border recently.
In January.
Well, yeah, that was a year ago. He's been there.
Oh, he was there a year ago. He was there a year ago. Sure, probably over a mil have come in since then. All hell's breaking loose. The state, we're in a constitutional crisis. The states are fighting the federal government. He has dementia. Like, there's a bunch of problems. But he was there a year ago. Does he remember he was there a year ago? Probably not. Anyway, this is just the beginning of this. And I have to say, obviously last week when DeSantis dropped out, I was not thrilled, but it was always, and I think I said it on the show several times, it was always partly like ringing around in my mind, like the states are the things that need to be empowered. Maybe the whole federal system is just too damn screwed up to do anything right at this point. And I have to say, at this very moment, on this National Florida Day, I'm very glad that Ron DeSantis is my governor. If you live in Texas, you should be very happy that Greg Abbott is your governor. And the lines are being drawn right now. And if you are in a blue state or a blue city and you're living in one of these sanctuary areas and you're watching the crime get worse and the drugs get worse and you're watching them fill up homeless shelters with migrants and all of these things, you should probably think about your life a little bit and the choices that you have to make. All right, let's get to a community Q&A. But real quick, let me talk to you guys about Brockhouse Force. Brickhouse Force, sorry, not Brock. That's Brock. Brickhouse Force. Guys, it's a new year and Men's Health Survey asked guys, what would you change about yourself? Guys said, get fit, look better, and improve intimacy. These goals have lined up with Force, the next-gen testosterone booster. Old testosterone products fail to build muscle and enhance intimacy and performance. It's odd that I called it Brock. That's weird. That's weird. The studied ingredients in Force have been shown to power up testosterone for lean muscle, weight loss, and enhanced intimacy. But here's the kicker. They power up natural growth hormone, and that's the performance difference maker. Force is total performance. Let's get you started with 15% off and free rush shipping. Visit brickhouseforce.com and enter BOOSTER. That's BOOSTDR. That's promo code BOOSTDR at brickhouseforce.com. Brickhouseforce.com. Statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. That's probably a good thing. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease, and it's not a substitute or alternative for care from a healthcare provider. And now back to me. All right, RubinReport.com. Community Q&A. If you want to get a question in right now, you can jump on Locals. We'll see if we can do something on the fly. Meemaw says, Dave, have you noticed that John Kerry looks like Herman Munster? No offense to Herman. Okay, now I get a Herman Munster reference. Obviously, the Munsters were a little before my time, but they were in reruns. So first, we have a John Kerry picture. There's John Kerry right there. And there's the shape of the head, the square shape of the head. The smile is kind of the same, the brow like this. Now that is true. Even the hair, you could see how it could happen if John Kerry just thinned it out a little bit. But I have always said that John Kerry looks more like the tree guy from Lord of the Rings. That guy right there, and he's an Ent, and his name is Tree Man, Treebeard. So to me, that's what John Kerry looks more like. I don't know what they've injected him with. I'm sure it's biodegradable because it's not like John Kerry would be a hypocrite in any way whatsoever. Would he? I think not. Phoenix, roll with me here. What's next? James says, are Cat Timp's legs as picturesque in person, are they as picturesque in person as they are when you see them on television / the small screen? So of course, Cat Timp, Greg Gutfeld's one of his sidekicks on the Gutfeld exclamation point program, and there are her legs. I would say they're representing the real leg. That's what her legs look like in real life. You know, they say what do they say? The camera adds 5 pounds, and it all goes to the legs. No, Cat's got nice legs. The people they love the legs, and Fox does like putting ladies on that show off their leg. Tyruss also shows off one of his legs, which Can we get a picture of that? Is there a way we could throw one of those on the fly? I asked Tyruss. So Tyruss, he's the other sidekick on Greg Gutfeld's show. And he was a former wrestler, I guess. And he's this huge guy. And I don't think he likes me very much. And he wears one pant leg down and one pant leg up, always showing off one calf area of his leg. And I asked him about it once, and he yelled at me. So I don't know what that's all about, but we'll see if we can get you a picture. Do we have one? Connor's working on it. We'll come back to this. We'll get you Tyruss's leg. I guess trigger warning. Lacey says, how long do you think it would have taken for the U.S. to negotiate the release of hostages in Palestine if Brittany Griner was held, and how much money do you think we would have forked over for her? Conversely, how long would it have taken the Palestinians to do unthinkable things to her, like murder her for her way of life? So, of course, Brittany Griner, I guess she is a current WNBA player, there she is, who was arrested because she had a weed pen, and then she was held in a Russian jail for quite some time. Look, she also happens to be a lesbian, I think. Like, the Gazans and Hamas would not have been all too kind to her. Of course, it would have been escalated, right? They still have American hostages now. And, it's like, these are American citizens. Does anything work? We talk about the border. The same thing. Does anything work? Does our government care about us in any way? And it's unfortunate that the conclusion for many people is becoming no. And that's a damn shame. Look, she is a black lesbian. I suspect if a black lesbian was being held in a tunnel somewhere under Gaza, that would be being talked about every single day, as opposed to the people that are held there right now, and we would have given up an awful lot. Christine says, management of The View has decided it's time to replace all the hosts and have hired your team to find their replacements. Oh, this is a thought exercise. I see what's happening here. They have to be diverse in their opinions, but not divisive. Gender is not an issue. Jordan Peterson has already declined. Who do you hire and how many? Well, how many? They have 5 of those chicks on the View right now?
You need you.
Okay, so all right, so I'm going to put myself. I'll moderate the thing, so I'll be Whoopi. I'll even wear her clothes and put my hair up like that. So that's Dave Rubin 1. All right, so let's get on the liberal side. You're going to put a Bill Maher. We can't use Peterson. That's interesting. On the more conservative side, how about a Shapiro? Who? Or Isabel? You know what? We're going to go with Isabel Brown, my co-host on People of the Internet. She's young, Gen Z. She knows what's up, and it's good to have a chick involved. So we've got Dave, Bill Maher, Isabel Brown. We should throw these people a diversity hire, shouldn't we? Can we get we should bring on Corinne Jean-Pierre just to dump on her the entire time. No. If I want it to be like intellectually smart and people to really think differently about things. All right, so let's throw another righty in. I think you definitely could throw a Shapiro on there, and then give me someone on the left that's not completely bananas. Oh, Tulsi, that would be pretty good. I mean, that's a good show right there. How about me, Bill Maher, Isabel Brown, Ben Shapiro, and Tulsi Gabbard? Like that's an interesting show of people from different walks of life that have different opinions on things. You've got different genders, you've got different sexualities, you've got different religions, and those aren't even the things that matter. You have different political ideas, right? Different philosophic ideas. And these are all respectful people. Wouldn't that be something? This is the day. Do we have Tyruss's leg? We can't find Tyruss's leg. Wow. It's not on the internet, Tyruss's leg? This is the day. Says, what is the name of the adorable green plant on the set each week? Yes, I still want to know because I want to get one. I assume, are you talking about this thing over here? So it's actually a fake plant because we don't have any windows in here, but it's a fake plant of a pothos, which we have tons of pothos in our house. I love pothos because they grow and crawl just like that. And if you water them nicely, a little bit of sun, like these things they really want to live and they'll just grow and grow. And if you put them up nice and high, we have a ledge on our second floor in the house that we've got a whole bunch of them just kind of hanging down into the kitchen. Really, really beautiful. That is a pothos. If you're talking about, my left and right are always screwy with the camera. If you're talking about this guy, what do they call them? It's similar to the pothos in the hanging thing that they'll keep going. It's also fake. I think we used to call them like pearl plants or something like that. String of pearls, yeah, something like that. And you can definitely find those. We have tons and tons of plants, live plants in the house, which I love taking care of. And I love doing landscaping. And we're working on a new garden situation right now, which is being installed as we speak. We're going to have about like 15 by 40 foot beds. Like it's going to be pretty massive and awesome. And we're going to start growing a ton of new stuff. The Eurasian says, what famous people do you get compared to the most often? I think you kind of resemble Steven Dorff, the bad guy in the first Blade film. I have heard that before. I was going to say you look like a younger version of him, but it turns out he's only a couple years older than you. Good Lord, I think he needs some of that Genucel. Yes, it does. Those skin creams will take care of you. I get a couple different things. Just the other day, the guy that was cutting my hair, I went to a new stylist, and he said I look like Matt Damon. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. People always compare me to Denzel Washington. That's another one that I get. No, but sometimes I get, if I have like 5 more pounds on me, or if I'm like a little bulkier, I used to get Brett Favre a lot. Yeah, I used to get Brett Favre. What, that's shocking to you? I used to get Brett Favre. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anything else you can think of?
You look like the pastor in Ozark.
I've been told, and Phoenix is telling me I look like the pastor in Ozark. I did not watch Ozark, so I don't know about that. Are we trying to get an image, perhaps? Yeah, so, who knows? Who knows? Florida Man Chuck says, I know that talking about politics and culture has been very fulfilling for you and the team, but what is one thing or topic that you wish would go away so that you would never have to talk about it again? Clinton, Trump, January 6th, BLM, Alphabet Mafia, COVID, cringe Jean-Pierre as a few examples. For me, it's the LGBT thing, the Alphabet Mafia thing. Like, once equality was there, you got to leave well enough alone. And so much of what's happened, this transfer of a fight that I think was just of equal rights to this new thing that has just burst forth and just upended so much, and all of the trans nonsense. Like, I live in Florida. We have a family here. Life is good. We go to the supermarket. We go to the local. We go everywhere. Like, we go to the petting zoo. We wander around. Like, we're treated well. Nobody looks at us in a weird way. Like, the world has moved on, but the activist class can't let things go. So they want the gays to think they're oppressed, and they want the blacks to think they're oppressed, and women to think they're oppressed. And it's like, if we could just let go of it. Remember that video? What was that video? It was Morgan Freeman, I think, talking to Don Lemon years ago on CNN. And Lemon's like, what can we do about racism? And Morgan Freeman's like, stop talking about it. And Lemon's head explodes. But it's the same thing with the LGBT mafia. It's like, let go of this shit. Stop trying to sexualize kids and everything else. Let people live normal lives. Like, my life might seem like a little crazy, like I'm somebody that talks to a camera for a living, and I guess people know who I am and whatever. But my life, in terms of what goes on in my house, making meals, being with the kids, taking walks, like watching movies, it's a normal life, as normal as everyone else's. But if you just keep talking about all of the differences, we will never get over any of that stuff. Margaret says, hey Dave, do you think Trump is doing so well because he is essentially an incumbent, or because he is truly a better choice than all the other candidates? Well, I think the reason he's doing so well is because of the rocket fuel of all of the insanity, right? Trump is viewed by X amount of people as the antidote to the insanity. What put Trump on the map in the first place? I'm going to build a wall and Mexico is going to pay for it. Now, he subsequently didn't build much of a wall, and he now admits that Mexico is never going to pay for it. But when you see all of the border stuff now, a huge percentage of people think Trump is the solution to the problem. They now view Biden as the problem and Trump as the solution. I have no doubt Trump will be a gajillion times. This would not be happening under Trump, for sure. So the rocket fuel behind Trump, I don't know it's that, I really don't think it's the incumbent thing. I think our memories are so shoddy now that most people aren't thinking back to pre-COVID presidency of Trump, which really was cooking, right? Like, the economy was doing well. We largely had peace. We were talking to North Korea, the Abraham Accords, lowest all-time black unemployment. I don't think that's really what's driving the Trump thing right now. What's driving the Trump thing is he's perceived to be a victim of the system, which to some extent he is, and they're trying to take him off ballots, and they're going with these court cases, and he's been right about the large issues. Now, it doesn't mean that granularly, if he was president again, he would be able to fix all of the issues. Like when we showed you that video just 10 minutes ago of Ron DeSantis, like clearly explaining what the Federalist Papers meant and what the founders intended and the difference between states' rights and federal government. Like, I don't think he can really do all of that, but he has a good directional feel for all of those things. And I think people see that, and they see that as significantly better than the guy who has dementia who's being driven by communists. Tony says, when is our next community meetup? I've been saving for it. We've been discussing it, and we will get back to you on that. We have not done a community meetup well, actually since July. Jesus. All right. We owe you guys a community meetup. We will do it somewhere in Florida. We did the last one in Miami. It was right on the water over there. It was a great time. We will make something happen. Maybe we'll do the other coast. Maybe we'll do the southwest coast of Florida. That could be nice. Cam says, Dave, if you had the opportunity to speak to Trump about what you believe he should focus on that would resonate with the undecided lefties, what would that be? I think it wouldn't be an issue specifically. It would be a tonal thing. And I know it's hard. You can't tell Trump to do anything. And one of my arguments for Trump over the years was that all of the people that were always like, the mean tweets, you got to ease up on the mean tweets. It's hard to tell the guy that did the thing that nobody thought anyone could do. It's hard to tell him how to behave, right? So everything I say right now, I say with a grain of salt. But I know that there are because we all know these people. You know these people in your life. There are a huge amount of people, mostly women, who have an aversion to Trump. And you could say it's because of grab him by the pussy or this or how he talks about women or whatever. If Trump wants to bring in the disaffected libs, and again, especially since October 7th, but now with the border, the John Fetterman types, the Bill Maher types, I get maybe those guys are never going to vote Republican, but people who have a similar mindset, you want to get those, he's got to figure out a way to tone down some of the stuff. So 2 days ago, when he was doing his acceptance speech or his winning speech after New Hampshire, when he was like making fun of what Nikki Haley wore. And to me, it was like, all right, we've been through this before. I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world. I don't have Trump derangement syndrome or anything else. But I know that there is a certain set of especially suburban women, probably in their 30s to 60s, who just watch him and they might be like, man, the Democrats are nuts and they're racist and they don't want my kids to have a job because they're white and everything else. But this guy's just a dick and they don't want that. So I would want to have some conversation around that, maybe. I don't know that it would work. It probably wouldn't, but I think that would be good advice for him. Elizabeth says, any plans to have David interview you again? I love those, but I know he's not a huge fan of being on the camera. Yeah, he doesn't want to be on the camera. He has no social media at this point. You know, he's taking care of the kids. He's making sure that, I get haircuts when I'm supposed to and I'm fed and everything else. And I'm not giving you a hard no on that, but we haven't really discussed it. And I don't think that's what he wants. And actually, I think it's very refreshing when you're around someone that doesn't want to be on camera or doesn't want to be on social media or any of those things. And they're just functioning in the real world. It's pretty good. Joe says, I've been hearing a lot about this country's loneliness epidemic. Let's say, for the sake of discussion, there is one. What steps should people take to overcome something like this? Well, look, that's the ultimate irony. It actually connects us to the previous question. It's the ultimate irony of social media. We all thought it was going to make us more social, and it made us less social in a lot of ways, right? We don't just go, I've talked about this many times, like I used to, back in the day when I lived in New York City, I used to just like going to a bar and sitting down and talking to the bartender or talking to the people at the bar. I've made lifelong friends that way. Just chatting with someone who might be in town that you're never going to see again. You know, like we are social creatures, and we thought that we were all going to be handed this thing and it was going to connect us to the world and we would all feel that innate connection. But we now know that has blown apart so much of our connections. We're distracted. Our attention spans aren't right. I can tell you from interviewing people over the last 10 years, I've seen people's attention spans just be blown apart, or train of thought be blown apart, where I'm interviewing somebody and I can see they're losing what they're saying in the midst of it, right? And that didn't happen as often as it did maybe 10 years ago. Like, we know that this thing and the endless scrolling, and that we've atomized everything, that you used to maybe go to a bar with some friends to pick up a chick or pick up a dude and just randomly go up to somebody, and you had to have a line to go up and say something to them. But now we've atomized it all into, oh, this person, look, I have all of their pictures already, and I know exactly what movies they like and what foods they like to eat. Like, we've taken the mystery out of romance and the mystery out of life. And we're gonna all It's the great challenge for all of us as human beings to figure out this thing is not evil. It is a tool, and like a hammer can help you nail in a nail to help you build your home, or a hammer, you can whack somebody in the head with it and kill them. It's up to you what you decide to do with it, and that's the challenge for everybody. But there definitely is an epidemic of loneliness and neurosis. I saw that something like 10% of Americans are now on prescription drugs. So whether that's Adderall or all of that other stuff, right? Every commercial that you turn on, antidepressants, every commercial, there's a cartoon cloud, and it's following a guy. And then he takes the pill and the cloud goes away, but then he realizes he has to take 8 other pills, and then he has restless leg syndrome. And then the side effects include diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, and it's like, now I'm really depressed. So we've got to figure out a way to deal with some of this stuff better. It's why I try not to spend any time on this thing on the weekends, except on locals, showing you guys food and what music I'm listening to, that kind of stuff. And it's why I do Off the Grid August. Eddie says, what are the chances that Trump ever admits his missteps? I, like you, voted for Trump, will support him now. However, his inability to show anyone non-abrasive temperament will cost us votes in 24. Well, I think that sort of gets to what I was talking about with the women before. Like, a little bit of humility on his part would be good. I think the issue there also, it's not just that he's not really wired for that. It's also that the base doesn't demand it of him. And he's very attached to what the base wants. So think about it this way. The base hates Operation Warp Speed, right? Because they hate the vaxes and they didn't want the mandates and any of those things. And he didn't mandate that anyone do it. But the base of the Republican Party, or the MAGA thing, is the most anti-vax whatever. He has shown no remorse in any of that, yet it didn't cost him politically. The base seems to love him more than ever. So the problem is his selective pressures are not pushed in a way that would allow him to have a mea culpa, right? So that's kind of how it goes. Oh, you know what? I'm on Newsmax in a couple minutes, so we got to go fast here. All right. Doc says, after watching Joy Reid support books on pedophilia in elementary schools, the question that came to me was this: why are there books like that targeted towards 6 to 9-year-olds? Who intentionally does that? What does that say about the moral state of education, entertainment, and publishing? I wish I had more time to answer that question. But the Marxists and the communists, they are here to destroy everything. And if you can destroy a 6 or 8-year-old's brain by confusing them about gender or sexuality or racism, make them think that they're guilty because of something they didn't do, or that they're not in the body that they're supposed to be in, and blow them apart in every which way. I can hear Newsmax calling me right now. If you can do all of that to a bunch of kids, then you are primed to have them live like slaves for the rest of their life. On that note, I will be on Newsmax with John Bachman in just a moment. So apologies, there's no post-game show today. And everybody else, we will see you tomorrow. Ciao.
I tell every young man who's telling me, I'm thinking of getting married or somebody, I said, look, you have any advice? They said, yeah, pick a family with 5 sisters or more. And they look at me, what the hell is that all about? I said, it's really simple. That way, one of them always loves you, not the same one. You always have somebody on your side.